Hello team, and welcome to another Atypical Philosopher video with myself, Jonathan MS Pierce. This is going to be a live chat with Rick the Ukrainian, who is a fellow YouTuber that does a number of things to do with the war, a lot of fundraising, does some translations of POW interviews and other sorts of things. We're going to co-stream this, which means I'll be streaming on my channel, he'll be streaming on his channel, which means we're going to have two bits of streaming software. And in about 3 minutes, I've come on early because there could be some technical hitches here. You know, we're going to sort out our jumping on each other's sort of channels and sort out all the issues live. So it's probably going to be a bit of a mess to begin with, but after that, I'm sure it'll sort itself out, and we'll have a chat about all things concerning the war in Ukraine. I was going to use the term, it's the gift that keeps on giving. It's not at all. That's a horrific way to think about a war, but it's one of these things. I wonder, after doing this for over a year now, I'm amazed that there's still stuff to talk about on a daily basis. In fact, there's so much stuff to talk about that I do too many videos and I speak for too long, because it's an incredibly dense topic for discussion. You've got geopolitics, you've got war, you've got morality and philosophy, you've got international economics and domestic economics and all sorts. So it is I'm both amazed that I have things to talk about on a daily basis still, and unsurprised at the same time. Anyway, thank you all for joining so far. I hope you get something out of this. It's going to be interesting to chat to the man. I'm going to try and see if I can pop on to his stream now. So bear with me as I do a bit of technical shenanigans and see if this works. So doing this live was probably completely unwise, but that's how I roll. I hope you've checked out the news videos from today, where I've been updating you with all the things going on in Ukraine. Here we go. That sounds good to me. I'm going to join him. Is he going to join me? I can't hear him yet, but nonetheless, has he pulled me up there? I don't know. I need him to join my my stream as well, otherwise it doesn't work. So once he clicks on my stream, I should be able to hear him. I can't hear anything he's saying because I think I've muted him. Whether he's talking to me or not, I don't know. I can't hear you at the moment. You need to join my stream. So I haven't got you on, Rick. So I'm just going to talk to my guys over here. As I say, we've got two streams going on at the same time. Hopefully he's going to click on mine soon, and we'll talk about what he's doing in terms of fundraising. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of things. So he will be joining in a second. I can see he's looking at his different screens, working out what's going on. Again, I can't hear him. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give myself a bit of sustenance. I've chosen a lager today, which is unlike me, but there you go. That's how cool I am. So Rick will need to press on the Streamyard link that I sent him. Hopefully you've got that. Otherwise, this is going to be the right. He says I'll try to use your link. So he's going to do that. Anyway, if you have any questions in the live chat at the moment, that'd be fantastic. He can, if I mute myself so he can't hear me, that'd be good. Anyway, really good to have a good 100 of you out on here so far. That's fantastic. Any questions from the live chat before we hopefully get Rick to join in? I know that someone mentioned just now the plane crash in Poland. I think that was Aussie Bugger. I'm going to talk about that in a future video. I'm going to do a bit of research into that, but I use that as a reason why Poland is somewhat against Russia at the moment. But some Polish people reach out to me to say it's a little bit more complicated than that. There are lots of reasons why Poland, I mean, obviously, historically speaking, being geographically situated where they are, there's going to be lots of reasons why they aren't the biggest fans of Russia. But it's always interesting when you got Hungary fairly nearby with a completely different kind of context and having different opinions of the Russians. So there you go. Let's see if can you click on the Streamyard link. The reason why we're doing it this way is because he's already been live for an hour, and that's why that's why we're having to do it this way. Normally we'd have it all sorted out before we go, and then we click live and we're both talking, but he's already been streaming for an hour. I'm jumping in on his stream, but he's jumping in on my stream. Anyway, there you go. So I don't know whether this is going to work or not. We shall see. Or we might just have to all go and jump over on to Rick's stream over there or something. Oh well. Or this is just be a complete failure. Hello to people all around the world. It's incredible that I was talking about this yesterday. I gave a thanks video out to you guys because we've almost reached 30,142, and that's fantastic for an achievement for this channel. So and I have you guys to thank for that. That's really, really good. There seems to be some technical issues going on at the moment. Okay, so I've just listened to a message from me. He's got internet connectivity issues, so he'll be he's restarting his router and then joining in a second. Thank you very much to King Raccoon, who was first, second, third, and fourth to joining this stream. Really appreciate that, King Raccoon. If you don't already know, there's a Discord server. Hopefully, the link works in the description below, and that link will send you to the Discord server. But it does run out, so if it doesn't work, there are links from my videos this morning. You can come join us on the Discord server, and you can chat about stuff, and we can we can also share videos that I can't show on my normal news videos in the morning because it demonetizes the channel, or at least the videos. And not to say we share like really inappropriate stuff, but just combat footage or things that are blowing up from the distance, all that kind of stuff. If you want to just have good conversations about what's going on in the war with regards to the economics of the war, with regard to military aid, geopolitics, all the philosophy and stuff, come and join us in the Discord server. It is pretty active over there at the moment. Still issues for him, so hopefully something will happen. Otherwise, this will be a bit of a disaster. I'll see if he can join me. Oh, come on, please. Anyway, if you have any questions, please hit me with them. What do you think about hiring the awful Moscow airports to disable partly Moscow? I presume that's hitting all 4 Moscow airports. Right, there's a really interesting moral discussion to be had around how far into Russia you strike in the name of self-defense. There is also the question of how much do you affect Ukrainian, how much do you affect Russian civilian life in order to affect the war situation, in order to try and convince the Russians not to continue their war. And this is a really tricky moral area, to be honest. You can see that it makes a lot of sense to hit air bases within Russia, right, where you've got military aircraft that are taking off, sending off their cruise missiles to hit Ukraine. So I would have absolutely no problem in hitting military targets in Russia, it gets a little bit dodgy when you're sending drones in to hit civilian targets, or to try and hit targets deep within, say, Moscow, that have got a high probability of getting shot down and blowing up civilian targets and doing damage to civilians. So I think it's a difficult one, that. And the problem is, I don't want to get too philosophical here, but things like rules and even the Geneva Convention, for example, these are philosophical, kind of moral rules that are basically agreed upon by consensus. So these moral rules, I've talked about this with my channel viewers before. So moral laws don't exist out there. Abstract ideas don't exist out there. What we do is we construct them in our minds, like we do language. And when we agree on language and moral rules, we write dictionaries, encyclopedias, legal guides, right? And if we want those laws to be reflected in society, we argue about them in the kind of academic space, in the popular space, and then we seek to vote in people who are going to try and put those legal rules into law. And so that'll be politicians, and we try and get judiciaries that are going to reflect that. And so it's a big agreement by consensus, but it isn't something that exists out there. So when it comes to, well, what's right and what's wrong in terms of trying to execute a defensive war in Ukraine, there isn't a right and wrong that exists out there that we can hit on, that we can see, that we can get to. The right and wrong is muddy, and we have to kind of muddle through arguing with each other, arguing on channels like this. And then when we get that agreement, that's good, but we're not always going to agree. Not every, you look at society in general, not all of us agree on what's right and wrong in society, right? And that's why we have these massive arguments, and that's why, Fox News and MSNBC in the US have completely different narratives, because they're reflecting two segments of society that believe two different moral positions. So there is no definitive answer, and we just have to try and argue by consensus. So going back to what is right and what is wrong to do in with regard to striking into Russia, it's a difficult one, and I have no answer yet that will give you great clarity on that. Right. Going to go back to see how Rick's getting on. I think I probably caused him a right nightmare in trying to get things working here. And he seems to be struggling a little bit. Nonetheless, oh well. So I might have to pause this and then try and sort this out with Rick, and then jump on a new live in about 10 minutes. I do massively apologize there. I'm going to see. Rick, can you hear me? Are you having an issue jumping on my link? I think he's having a bit of a technological issue as a whole there. So I'm going to probably jump off this live stream. I'm going to create another one. Watch out for it, and I will get back on. He's trying to connect to me. Okay, somebody said there. I really appreciate that. Oh, here we have. He's here. I almost. Oh, he's there. Are you there? Come on, Rick. You can do this. I'm holding out for you. At the moment, he's just a spinning circle stuck in infinite time and space. Oh well. He's almost there. Come on, dude. Anyway, so my thoughts they're a bit jumbled there. Oh, hey Rick, I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Oh, I'm here. Awesome. Am I on your show? Yes.
You are.
I need to. Yes, we did it. I need to mute it here, and you need to unmute yourself now on the Streamlabs.
Yep. Okay.
We cannot hear it there through the Streamlabs.
Can you hear me now, mate? Or
It works.
there could, yeah, it works.
You're on my
cool.
stream. We have the sound.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I think your internet, your internet connection might be struggling.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely. I'm just using the Wi-Fi, and I need to make some works to drill the wall to get the cable here. So I'm delaying this, and I see that I finally need to do this. I finally need to get the wire into this room because there are no other ways.
Good on you.
So,
well,
Jonathan,
that's brilliant that we're finally here. There might be a bit of delay. I was just wanting to see, did you want to introduce yourself to my viewers? Most of them will know you, but just give us an idea of who you are, where you're from.
Yeah. I can shortly tell your viewers about myself. We can definitely do this. So, I'm Rick. It's actually my real name, my short name. It's not Ukrainian, but when you say, when you shorten the Ukrainian name Yaroslav to Yarik, we have such a short version. Then you shorten it one more time, getting Ya away. So it is Rick after all. So there are some Ricks here in Ukraine, other Ricks. So yes.
Excellent.
I am.
Karen.
I sorry that I didn't let you give you the chance to ask me a question, but I just wanted to continue myself. So I had many jobs, and I still have a primary job. I'm doing it as a hobby, but I'm dreaming of becoming like later, and I'm dubbing the interviews made by Ukrainian journalists Volodymyr Zolkin and Dmytro Karpenko with Russian prisoners of war here in Ukrainian captivity. I'm dubbing them into English for you guys to see who they are, those Russians, and to understand more. I was watching those interviews about a year ago, and I like them so much. I've seen that valuable, and I decided to dub one of them into English. I wasn't ever doing any dubbing before. That lasted for 35 minutes, and yeah, it took a long time. The process is hard on the stage of making subs. It's really hard to make video, to be honest, translate everything and put everything at its place, and then to dub it is easier, but still takes some time too. But this content you can find on my page, and you can also subscribe if you want, but it's totally fine if you just watch those videos, because it's the most important thing. But also, what we also do here in this channel with my community, we raise funds on every stream for the armed forces of Ukraine. We, for example, right now are raising money for the car, for the pickup truck, for my friend, my dear friend, El Greco. It's his call sign. He is actually the Ukrainian ethnic Greek, and he serves in border guard of Ukraine. He is in 15th Brigade, which is called the Steel Border. Have you heard of this one, Jonathan?
No.
It's one of those assault, the guard of assault. Remember 8 brigades that were forming about half a year ago?
Yeah. So the assault brigades, as I understand them, are when these kind of vanguard, the offensive brigades. Were you talking about the offensive brigades? So
yes,
the assault brigades go in and they do their sort of vanguard, attacking at the front and then taking over the towns, and then the offensive brigades, or the offensive guards, are supposed to then come in and sort of sort out, clear out the maybe some remnants, take out the booby traps and mines and whatnot, and as I understand it, then make these places safe and help get the administration of liberated towns back online. And so we haven't really seen them yet because the Ukrainians haven't taken any kind of big places. They've just kind of taken small villages here and there and haven't needed, as far as I understand it, the offensive guard to come in any large way yet. But is that correct, how I understand it?
No, they are actually the one of the assault brigades who charge first.
Right,
and
okay.
Yeah, but we actually don't have like the term for some offensive brigades. No, sorry, defensive brigades who must stand somewhere and defend. It's been done by any brigade here in Ukraine. By motorized brigades. What do we have? What else do we have? Of course, not by airborne and by what's the second one? The Marines. Yes, they are always marching first. They are doing the assault, but it's everything is mixed. Sometimes some brigades are used not as they should be used, because even if we have the million people in the army, there's always a lack of men because the front line is huge. Russians, there are more Russians than our people. They're on the front line, and they always advance in, like it was with Wagner's. Remember, in Bakhmut, there were so many of those prisoners, and they were outnumbering our soldiers. It was always like that.
Yeah. So
yes, I actually was. Yes.
I was just going to say
Sorry.
that the offensive guard, as you're right, there are all these different elements of the Ukrainian military. So obviously, your friend works for an assault brigade or is a member of an assault brigade. As I understand it, the offensive guard is what I'm saying they were. So they do that, and these are the guys that haven't quite yet been brought into the fray. But obviously your friend El Greco, it works much more on the front lines in an assault brigade, which is, goodness me, that's obviously a hugely challenging job if ever there was one. Are you able to say where he's active at the moment?
I can say the direction. Yeah, it's Kharkiv region. Like
Oh, Rick's gone. Yeah, you're back again. No, it's fine.
Yeah, I'm dropping off, but it's much better than when we started. It was a terrible connection, but now it's better. So yes, he's on that direction. I won't say more because actually it's not a problem, because he's moving around in Ukrainian army. As I see it, there are a lot of rotations. Usually brigades are not staying at the same spot, especially the defensive brigades. Those assault brigades, they must push at one point all the time, as for example 3rd Assault Brigade, right? The ones who liberated Klishivka today, by the way. Have you heard the news? Yes, Deep State confirmed it only half an hour ago. I've seen it.
No, let me know. I mean, I know that Klishivka and Andriivka have been liberated, although there is arguments about whether the last Russians were cleared out of Klishivka. But yeah, let me know.
Today they finally cleared it out. Just give me a second. So what are they saying? The commander of what's the word? The ground troops of Ukrainian army, General Syrsky. You probably heard that name before.
Yeah,
he actually said today. Not said, but reported, yes, that Klishivka was finally fully liberated, and today it moves to the blue zone.
Right. Okay. So that means it's a robust control of the Ukrainians, where it was the northern part was gray zone recently, but now, so that's really good news.
Yes, amazing news. And Andriivka, it was, let's talk about that. It was so impressive. You have probably seen the video from 3rd Assault Brigade where they were using the loudspeaker all hang to the drone. telling Russians to surrender.
Yeah,
Impressive
so
video.
I saw that video. I haven't reported that on my channel because I
Awesome.
was unsure. I was watching the video and thinking, have they overdubbed that? I wasn't sure that that was definitely what was happening, and I didn't want to spread misinformation. But now loads of reputable sources are saying they were doing that
Yeah.
loudspeaker. But when I first saw it, it just seemed like I'm sure they were like cutting the video and the speech was just continuous. So I was just a little bit unsure. But yeah.
But when it comes to Third Assault Brigade, they have perfect communication. I must say their marketing is perfect. They do many fundraiser campaigns here with Ukrainian businesses, and they always put information only when it is confirmed. They were asking. By the way, I remember how our Hanna Malar, the
Yeah.
Minister of Defense speaker, was saying that Andreevka was already liberated, or it was Andreevka. But they, after like an hour, Third Assault Brigade said that no, we're still clearing it out. Yeah, they hit her hand. So I would rather rely on their information than the information that comes from Ministry of Defense, because actually the general staff is the head of all the ground troops we have there, not the Ministry of Defense. How they are, what they have to do with that.
Yeah,
Do
it's
they
interesting
have to
because
do?
I was talking about why that would have happened, why she would have said something that was. My interpretation was that probably it had just about been cleared out, but it just wasn't officially said by the third battalion, or maybe it got lost in translation or something. I don't think it was a case of like outright disinformation. It was just one of those things where the third battalion, I think, went,
Yeah,
"Hey, hang on, not quite yet. Let us do that." So yeah, but
it was the
but
full start. Yeah.
yeah, but you know, by within half a day, it got officially announced by the
Yes.
third battalion, third assault brigade. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I was just looking online when you're saying, have you heard about Klishivka being cleared out? Now that was obviously nothing of a surprise to me. That's been on the cards, but there does seem to be quite a bit of news going on about some major explosions near Sevastopol in Crimea. And that is
Nice.
pretty exciting because it says at Cape Fiolent near Russian-occupied Sevastopol. That I find that really, really exciting because it was all about the destruction of those S-400 systems on Cape
Oh
Tarkankut on
yeah.
the western side, and you had the Triumph S-400 battery taken out, and then you had. I don't think it was. They initially reported it as a battery and all the crew taken out, but I don't know if it was just a launcher in the end. But anyway, more of that taken out, which means that Sevastopol is really, really vulnerable to being attacked.
Yes.
And just the next few weeks are going to be really interesting to see what cruise missiles get through and where they hit in Crimea.
I was actually really impressed how everything was going step by step. First, they got Zminy about a year ago.
So that's Snake
Then
Island.
Snake Island, yes.
Yeah.
They say Zminy. It's the Ukrainian name for it. The Snake Island. Now they have taken the Boyko towers. They were, I mean, the armed forces of Ukraine and all the defense forces of Ukraine. They were taking out Russian systems one by one, because around a week or two ago, they were destroying first S-400. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
They actually have given the video of its destruction. It was one of the best videos during this war, one of the best recordings of Ukrainian victory, small victory. I mean, like, but yeah, in terms of money, it's a huge victory because it costs $1.2 billion. So two S-400 systems being destroyed in just a few weeks. And now we're controlling the western part of the Black Sea, thanks to our special operation forces who have taken those platforms, right? So
yeah, on my screen it won't come up on your stream, but on my stream I'm showing the positions of the 4 platforms in the Black Sea, and that's exactly what have been confirmed to be under control of the Ukrainians. And of course they can then place their radars, electronic warfare, systems and so on and so forth. But yeah, carry on.
I'm actually showing the same. When you said I'm showing it on the screen, I went there to my saved messages. I do it on Telegram. I send myself messages just like that, and I'm showing the same. So you guys see that we are getting really close to Crimea because the most eastern platform, Sivash. Let me measure it on Deep State Map. Have you been measuring it yourself, Jonathan?
I can
How?
I can do that now. So from Savash to maybe Olenivka, that's 60 kilometers. And then it's another Tavrida is the closest one, which is about 47 kilometers away.
Oh, wow.
But
Yeah, the one's about 40 kilometers away. That's crazy.
yeah, but
It's so close.
yeah, I thought Tavrida was on fire until recently, but maybe I was wrong because I've seen the Ukrainians produce footage of them on board it, but on the platform. But this is really important for being able to
Yeah.
do activity into Crimea, and I think I was expecting the counteroffensive, and I think most Ukrainians probably were as well, and analysts in the West expecting the counteroffensive to be not more successful. I mean, to have advanced more quickly than it has,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And the idea was to get, I think, towards Crimea in the north. So Perekropsk, Henichesk, all these kind of areas.
Uh-huh.
Approach that, and then hammer Crimea with like HIMARS and whatnot. But I think with cruise missiles, and if they get ATACMS, you
Yes.
don't even need to move from the front lines of where you are. Like Crimea is becoming untenable for the Russians to keep. Like
Yes.
if the port of Sevastopol can't protect the Black Sea Fleet, then Crimea is useless for the Russians.
Yes, you're totally right, and that's what we're already doing because this week, Storm Shadows and Scalp missiles were launched at two Russian ships, one submarine and one big landing ship, and they, I guess, were destroyed, severely damaged, totally. But seeing the footage of that ship, we can actually be showing that video on our streams on the screen, right? Let's do it. If you want to, if you get one. If you have one close.
I'll have a look at for which one. So the images of the boats being taken out, the landing ship and the
There
submarine.
were, yeah, actually there was one video where the landing ship was filmed closely. A short one, only 14 seconds, but I'm sure you've seen that one. It was pretty widespread. I'm showing it now. So it is, you see, guys, it burned out. It won't swim anywhere. It won't go anywhere anymore. Definitely. And judging by the satellite images of those two, submarine it has like a huge hole in it now because let me find it real quick.
And there also the landing ship was on fire like several days later, still on fire, and was being still put out with tugboats firing water onto it. So it is gone. That landing ship is no more. And they've hit a number of landing ships, which will affect their ability to logistically supply troops, perhaps from the sea. So this is again another example of the Ukrainians really hammering Russian logistics and causing them to have a lot of problems going forward in how they do their warfare.
Yeah, you're right. I want to make a quick pause to thank everyone for gifted memberships. Ken Pedersen, thank you for 20, and Aussie T, I saw 10 gifted memberships from you. 10 more, Aussie T and Ken Pedersen, thank you very much. And all guys who of you have gifted those memberships before, I am really grateful to you too. Also, I wanted to mention two donations that we received for El Greco truck today. $5.06 from Lori from Finland. Hello from Ukraine. Andreas Lach sent $5. Thank you very much. Another small one, but it comes from the heart. Yes, there are no small donations. Remember that, because when they are summed up, they are given huge
and
result. That
yeah, just to add to that, I
tell
mean,
me.
the link to your donation is in my description below. So if anyone wants to help Rick the Ukrainian do his fundraising for that truck for El Greco, you can just follow the link in my description and help Rick out.
Actually, I need to specify that there's another truck. El Greco's truck has been. It has the other link, and I need to send it to you too. Sorry for the misinformation, but we need to raise for both of them. I was just thinking to send you this link first, and if you're okay to put the second link, because the truck for El Greco is being raised in Monobank here in it has the Ukrainian account, and this name for truck has the say something. Jonathan,
No, you're just
you're
really
here.
breaking up.
Yes.
You're really breaking up. So I just was trying to understand what you're saying. But yeah, send me the
Okay.
link and I'll put it in the live chat.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And that's Rick gone for the time being. Oh, he's back. So, Rick, would you mind if I, because you are from, I mean, you were sort of talking about where you're, what your background is. You're still working. You're trying to get on board with doing these translations, and that's hard work, and you need more time to do that. But you told me previously when we spoke that you're from the Donbass, and the Donbass is a really interesting area as well as Crimea, but I think more so than Crimea. I think Crimea, you've got this place where the Russians shipped in a load of Russians from the Russian Federation over the last sort of 10 years to try and make that a more Russian place. And meanwhile, lots of pro-Ukrainian Ukrainians left Crimea because of the annexation. But the Donbass, I think that has a slightly different feel. And one of my worries, or one of my kind of open questions that I don't really know the answer to, is what does Ukraine do with the Donbass after Ukraine win the war, right? So assuming Ukraine are going to prevail in this war, they have a really difficult time with having a really large area with a lot of pro-Russian sentiment. So a couple of questions. What do you do with that? How do you know any people that are still living there, and how did they feel? Are they pro-Russian, pro-Ukrainian? If they're pro-Ukrainian, what do they do with themselves? And the third question is, are most of the people there genuinely pro-Russian still now?
Many questions, I must say. Let me begin with the one that what should Ukraine do? No, this one should go last. I guess we gotta start with the one that how many pro-Ukrainian still are there. Yes, so a lot, I must say. We cannot even imagine, because they need to stay silent. They need to keep their heads down. They need to be silent, because if you are saying there to people that you are pro-Ukrainian, you could be just sent to one of their basements, as they call them. They will torture you there, and you will end up probably in some those Storm Z battalions, where they will just drop you to the front line as a meat, as a cannon fodder, but probably just will torture you to death in one of their filtration camps. They have one in Donetsk, in the former plant. It's been called isolation. Yeah, was it alike to the filtration camp?
No, that was such a bad time. So someone's just done a donation to the channel. Smith's just done a lovely donation to the channel, and I was like, "Yeah, thanks." Meanwhile, you're talking about horrific filtration camps, and that's just the worst time. I'm so sorry. Rick.
No, it's totally fine. I do the same. When my co-host or the guest speaks, it becomes I read the chat meanwhile, just as you do, and it always like that. Yeah, people are talking about horrible things, so I totally understand you, Jonathan. I do the same, and I am smiling because I saw some supportive message in the chat.
Yeah.
So pro-Ukrainian people. There's a lot of them there. There was actually a documentary made by one of the Russian so-called opposition who is still in Russia, who went to Mariupol and who have spoken to pro-Ukrainian people there. They were hiding their faces, their voices were changed. They were telling that they are here, they need to keep it low, but they are waiting for Ukraine. And there's a lot of people who didn't give the interview, so a lot of people will be helping the armed forces of Ukraine when they will be getting close. They will be making the diversions for Russian forces, not for, but against Russian forces and for Ukrainian forces. So
is that a documentary that
we
can be
will be
seen on
actually.
YouTube? Is that a free documentary that
Yes,
can be
it
seen on
is there.
YouTube? Because that'd be really interesting.
It is there. I guess I won't be able to find it
That's fine. You
that
send me a
fast.
link at some point, and I'll share it at some later point. I'd like to watch it. Yeah.
Yes. That documentary.
So that's to say that there are lots of pro-Ukrainian Ukrainians still in the Donbass region, but they have to stay silent for fear of, retribution and reprimand from the Russian forces.
Yes.
But then there are obviously still I know we still haven't answered the other questions, but I also wonder whether there are traditionally pro-Russian Ukrainians in the Donbass who have gone, actually, like, I've seen stuff that really sucks, right? And I've actually changed my opinion.
So I will actually maybe clear something out. We need to divide the category of pro-Russian people and people who were pro-nothing, because there were a lot of people who just wanted to live their lives, and they didn't care who will be at power. And those people, unfortunately, leaned to Russia because for 9 years they had nothing but Russian propaganda. It was on their television, and but it's not all of them, of course. Some people who were neutral, they stayed neutral, but a lot of them had been brainwashed. I see it. I know some people like that. Some people stayed just the same, but I mean, with their same position of no citizen. They actually don't have that. Some people there in Donbass, I've noticed that stuff. They have it left from Soviet Union, like a Soviet citizen or a citizen of. They actually Soviet Union made a great job erasing the ethnicity, erasing the citizenship of people. They were calling them all Soviet people, and when Soviet Union broke out, or you know what I mean. Probably not that word, but when it went to history, fortunately, those people didn't know who they are. Most of them even said that they are not Russians, but
you unfortunately, you've broken up big time there.
they are also not. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Is it getting better? So what was the last thing you've heard from me?
So they were. Oh, you've gone now. Technology. I'm going to add something myself. I don't know if you can hear me, but I had on my other channel, I've got a philosophical channel, and I had a guest on to talk about flags, vexillology it's called, and he was talking to me about flags, and he said that Soviet Union is really interesting. So when they're in the Soviet Union, all the different republics had their own flag, but it was all a variation of the kind of Soviet, USSR flag. So every flag had a hammer and sickle in the corner, and it was just, they were all like just different versions of the same thing. And as soon as like 1991 came and you had the dissolution of the Soviet Union, suddenly everyone had their own flags, and there's all this individualism that went on, and it was like this outpouring of their own identity and citizenship that had been like repressed for all that time, which is kind of what you were speaking to there. Like they do a really good job. The Soviet Union did a good job, good, not morally good, but like
Yes.
an effective job of wiping out people's identity to keep them, within the communist kind of like Soviet Union. But actually, people love having their identity and love having their own kind of culture and ethnicity.
Yes, the problem is, and I just thought that I must mention that 2 million, around 2 million people left Donbass to Ukraine. And some people left to Russia when it all began in 2014, and in the next years they were leaving, from 2014 until 2022 and further. People were leaving, and those Ukrainian people who thought themselves Ukrainians, most of them left because it was unbearable to live there. I have my own experience because I lived in that occupation for 5 years almost, yeah, 4.5. And there in Makiivka, Makiivka is the neighbor city of Donetsk. It is really close. They are actually forming together a huge town, not town but city. Yes. So those two cities I lived at, they're in occupation, and I must say that eventually you cannot stay there anymore. You feel like there's no future for you in there. There's no truth, of course, no rights, no human rights, because it's always just repression, always getting you off your rights because you cannot travel anywhere. You have the constant curfew for years. It's been, yeah, we should stay at home. We should come home until 10 and stay there until I guess 5 or 6 a.m. People in masks could enter the restaurant where you were sitting, and they could just stop the music and make you show them your documents. I hope I'm not interrupting there. Am I?
No, that's really interesting. I mean, it's fascinating to have your experiences of living under, Russian control in that period from 2014 onwards. It's fascinating, and to get a sense of what people still think. So please carry on. Yeah.
A lot of people are still pro-Ukrainian, and before 2022, you could actually say it to not to strangers, but to your friends. You probably won't be, how is it? Shit, I forgot the phrase. When you get give someone to authorities for their views, how do you call
Yeah,
this?
well, the slang is that is shopped. You won't be shopped by
Yes, you
someone
won't be
shopped
shocked
shopped in,
by someone.
but yeah, but there's a better phrase than that. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's you see, that's everywhere. There's agitation, that pro-Russian agitation, that stupid agitation. They took the banners from oh my god, from 1945 or even before that. Have you joined the Red Army, something like that? But the army of DPR, those so-called republic. I wasn't living in so-called LPR, the Luhansk uh, region. I lived in Donetsk, and they actually in Luhansk they had even worse picture. I guess it was like 19 probably 33 there in Luhansk, while it was probably 50s in or 60s in Donetsk region. It was a bit different. It was even harder in Luhansk region. But anyway, it was still hell, and people with pro-Ukrainian position got into the trouble in the beginning, especially when they were showing their pro-Ukrainian position. They were just taken out to those basements, those torture camps, and there's a book which is called. Let me show it to the people on my screen. I didn't send you the link yet, right? I need to do it.
No,
Just a second.
no.
Yes, here's a link. I interrupted myself there, but I thought that it's important to bring you the link. So there are two ways to donate me through this link, not me, uh, directly to the fundraiser jar. We call them jars here in Ukraine. Monobank creates the separate account for the fundraiser, and you can actually put the progress bar of this fundraiser on your stream. I have this progress bar on my stream. So if you guys from Jonathan's stream will visit my stream, which is also going on my channel. This is a simultaneously two streams going. You can see the progress bar of this fundraiser, and in the end of each stream, I take the money that have been sent to my PayPal and donate them right on the stream. I show everything, and the progress bar is updating. Money are going into account. So I've also sent you my PayPal email in case people are using PayPal and it's going to be working for them better than Monobank link. Monobank link is the jar itself. When you open it, you see. Have you opened it yourself, Jonathan? I wonder.
No, not yet. No, you just sent that to me. So yeah, I've got it. Oh, sorry, I've got the link on my screen. Yeah, so people can see that.
Yes, you see like the jar itself and some text: car for El Greco, pickup truck for El Greco group from the 15th Mobile Border Guard Brigade, still border. Yes, so it's all done through this link, and I use it myself in the end of the stream when I transfer.
Yeah, so you've broken up a little bit, but what I like about what you're saying is that you're trying to be as transparent as possible, which I think is really beneficial for people, because there are so many people trying to fundraise, and it is a bit of a
Money from
sorry, it's a bit
Sorry.
of a it's a bit of a minefield for people to. Sorry, you're breaking up loads there. It's a bit of a minefield for people to know who to go for and who to support. There are scammers out there. There are reputable people doing really good work like yourself, and it's difficult to know who to support. So I think when you're as transparent as possible, like you're saying there, and showing people what you're doing on the screen and blah blah blah. I mean, can you talk to any successful fundraising you've already done previously? That fundraising efforts that have finished, and now you've obviously moved on to a new one. Is there something you've done previously?
Sorry, Jonathan, you were interrupting for my side. I've heard only that there are different types of those fundraisers. There are some trustworthy people and some scammers. And what have I done before? You were asking?
Yeah, you were just saying. I was just saying, what successful fundraising have you done already? Have you, or is this your first?
No. It's not my first. We've been doing it with my community here on this channel for the last 8 months already, I guess. Maybe 7, I guess. Yeah, we didn't start from the very beginning.
Yeah,
I guess it all started, all these fundraisers started about half a year ago. And we have some results. We've been raising money for cars. We've been, buying and sending cars. It's all on my page, actually. You can go. Now, by the way, am I interrupting now? Can you hear me?
No, it's cool.
This is.
So yeah, go and check Rick's page out, and hopefully all the links will be. If you can't find it on my description, go and check him out on his own YouTube channel. He has, obviously, as he's saying, done successful fundraising previously, so that's really good news. He's a tried and tested fundraiser who is bona fide and is doing a really good job.
Can you hear me now, by the way?
Yep, I can hear you loud and clear.
Awesome. So I wanted to say that all you should do is go to Community tab, and I'm actually.
He's broken up, so goodness me, we're going to have some technical issues today. But on the community tab, you can see all the things he's done and presently doing. Lots of fundraising there, lots of information about where the fundraising is going, and what it's paying for, and who are the recipients. So that's really good news. That's all up on my stream. You can see the. Oops, no, you can't. You can see the details of that there on his community tab. Check it out. Go to his YouTube page, and you can see, he's good for fundraising. So yeah, no, excellent work, mate. Excellent work.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And yes, it's all there. I shouldn't be talking about my community talks. Can talk for me. They can prove everything.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So going back to Donbass, so you're saying that there are people who live there that are definitely pro-Ukrainian, who are unable to say that. There are people who have changed, especially from those who are sitting on a fence previously, that didn't maybe care so much about who was ruling. They just wanted to get on with their lives. But actually, maybe some of those have moved over to realize that the Russian occupiers are not who they want to be in charge of their territory. So do you get a feeling that actually, if Ukraine was to prevail in the war, to win the war, that actually the Ukrainian soldiers would be welcome?
Yes, I still have my grandma there, guys. I know that Jonathan is breaking up, and on his channel I'm breaking up too. Just Jonathan.
Yep.
Check.
Yeah. I can hear you perfectly now, and I could hear myself perfectly, and it was brilliant what I asked. So I was just saying that basically, I was just summarizing what you said. So do you think that when the Ukrainian army, if they were to march into the Donbass, would they be received well by the population that lives there now, generally?
Yes, they will be received by some percentage, and I must truly say that some percentage of the population won't be happy to see for 9 years, and it's the truth. And we will definitely have to figure out what to do with them. I mean, in terms of citizenships, in terms of how to integrate them back into Ukrainian society. I hope I'm not breaking up.
No, you're sounding good.
Good, because it's breaking on my side. This is why I wondered. So yes, it's going to be a huge challenge for Ukrainian government to integrate those people back to Ukrainian society. But I think it's manageable. I think it's possible. But it's still going to be dangerous to be there. Definitely dangerous to be there, to openly Ukrainian people there, and there's still going to be some things that we're going to need to implement into our politics. For example, I've heard about the non-citizen passport practice that's been used in some countries. Have you heard of those?
Non-citizen passport? No. Let me know about that. Explain that.
I don't know the details, but I know that in some countries, if I'm not mistaken, countries of Baltia, to say it correctly, they have those passports of non-citizens, people who are actually living in the country, but they don't have the right to vote. And it is important for us because pro-Russian forces are going to be getting out of the shadow after our victory. They're going to be leaning people back to pro-Russian position, and they're going to do all the same undermining job as they did before. They will be working on those people, and we must work. All the Ukrainian society must work to first show them that they're not our enemies, that we know that they are Ukrainian citizens, that they are will be taken back with open arms, and no one is gonna blame them. Of course, if they weren't treason in Ukraine, those who worked for pro-Russian government, those who were committing the war crimes, or just officially collaborating with them, they won't get away from justice. They will pay for their crimes if they did them. Everything's going to be done properly through the court, and there are going to be some sorry there are going to be some, oh damn it, I forgot the word for
Going to be
for
some
this.
repercussions for them, I think, is what you mean.
Yes.
Repercussions. There will be consequences for their activities in collaborating.
Yes, but legal consequences.
Yeah,
It's not
absolutely.
going to be like some lynching. It's not going to be the vigilante stuff. It's going to be everything by the law. We need to do everything according to the law. We need to present all the. I'm starting to forget words. Sorry, Jonathan. All the evidences that they were really collaborating, and everything will be by the law.
I think what you want to do when you're talking about people like those in the Donbass is you want to bring them along with you rather than forcing them to be a certain identity. So it's all about making making Ukraine as attractive as possible. So it's supporting people in the Donbass, it's supporting the whole region in terms of economics, supporting them in terms of aspiration, and being able to to get jobs. So the economics is going to be really important, but you want to make Ukraine as a ruling nation for the Donbass. You want to make the people want to be a part of Ukraine rather than resent being forced to be a part of Ukraine. Is kind of what I'm saying.
Can you hear me properly now, Jonathan?
I can. Yes.
Good. You were breaking up. This is why, unfortunately, I couldn't hear half of your words. And can you please repeat it? And I'll check
Yeah, just
if
saying.
you're not breaking up again.
Yeah, just saying that you want to bring people along with you. So you don't want to force people in the Donbass to be X or Y. You want to make Ukraine as attractive as possible, so that people in Donbass just off their own back want to be a part of Ukraine rather than want to be a part of Russia. So that's all about allowing Ukraine to succeed, having good economics, having good standard of life, and supporting Donbass as well. So not making it a forgotten part of Ukraine where it's not being invested in by maybe the Ukrainian government, so on and so forth. So that's, I think it's a carrot versus a stick. I don't know if you know that saying. So the carrot is you're kind of attracting people towards you rather than using a stick to make them do what you want.
Yes, exactly. In Ukrainian, it is and a carrot.
Sorry, I missed that. It's what in the carrot? What in the carrot?
It is knut tapryanik, which is the what is it? A sling, a sting, and that word I cannot translate actually.
Something similar though.
Yes.
Moving on to a different question. Would you be able to answer this? This has been asked by Eubanks DVDs, who thank you very much for your super chat. Really appreciate that. He said, "What's your view, Rick, on Ukrainian corruption and it being resolved? So how long will it take? How culturally deep is it? So how much of a problem is corruption? It's one of those things that we hear so much about, and we know that Ukraine has to do something about it, because if they want to get into the EU and if they want to get funding from the IMF, the World Bank, and so on and so forth, they need to be transparent. They need to get rid of corruption. So it's in their best interests to not only is it morally right to get rid of corruption, but they kind of practically need to get rid of it. So what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, I must say that it is still present here, no doubt. I won't deny it. There's some corruption in Ukraine, and in some cases, a lot of it. But another thing is that we're fighting it already. We have some institutions. I would say, need more to put more effort in this in terms of government. As citizens, we are.
Sorry, we've lost him again by the sound of it. Oh.
I have a possible solution for this breaking up. I need probably to use the other browser.
Yeah, I don't know if it's worth turning
Just give me a
your
minute,
video
guys.
off as well. That could help the bandwidth. You could, for me, you could turn your video off.
Okay, I can do this, but
I don't know.
probably I will. Oh, let me turn it off. Yeah, I turned it off. Let's try if it's going to be better.
Yeah, we'll try that one out. So I can hear you loud and clear. So corruption. So you were saying there is still a problem in Ukraine. There in certain areas. There is lots of it. What else do you want to add to that? Oh dear. Unless I think Eubank's DVD. Your question was too much for him. He's in. Yep, he's gone. So anyway, he'll no doubt be back. So the good thing about corruption is that the good thing about what Ukraine is doing about corruption is that they are doing a lot, and they're doing it very publicly. So what I think Zelensky has done very well is to get rid of people as soon as there's this hint of corruption. Although there is one big exception to that, which is the former defense minister Reznikov, that he was kept in for long, although he wasn't directly connected to corruption. He was kind of in charge of the Ministry of Defense while certain procurement issues took place. But that aside, generally what happens, so all the recruitment, the corruption that was taking place with the recruitment recently, he got rid of all the regional recruitment sort of managers, if you like, people in charge of recruitment, just in one fell swoop. And in doing so, he sends a really clear message to everyone in Ukraine that he is onto it, that the government is onto corruption, and then you need to clean up your act, otherwise we're coming to get you. So that's your first thing. And the second thing is a very clear signal to those outside of Ukraine that he is willing to make difficult decisions to improve the lot of Ukraine in terms of corruption. So that's really significant, but it is a massive job. These things are often generational changes. It was interesting speaking to Matt Bishop, who is one of my members, who he'll be asleep at the moment. He's on Australia with his Ukrainian wife. So he escaped. If you go and check the live stream out with him, you'll find out his accounts of escaping from Kharkiv with his wife and her son, and they went to Romania and they escaped to Australia. But his accounts of what it's like in Ukraine, or what it was like in Ukraine, were pretty interesting, where he's saying that when I first got there was kind of this level of corruption, but you could see over the time I was there that it was improving and improving and improving. At the beginning, it was every time that you saw the police or you were stopped by the police, you'd hand them some money, and there you go, money and a passport, and whatever issue you're being stopped for will be sorted out. And whereas just before he is leaving, that wasn't the case, right? So there is tangible difference in corruption in society in Ukraine over recent time. But these things do take an awful long time. I mean, structurally, there are a lot of entities in place in Ukraine to help deal with corruption there. And I'm just showing you one article from the Wilson Center that I think I've dipped into previously, and a bunch of things that they've done. So here it lists, for example, a bunch of things that the SSU have done. This was, I think, back in February, just over the few weeks before this article was written, and that they are doing an awful lot. It's just a massive challenge and really difficult to achieve. I remember reading a piece on corruption in the US military that it took decades. It took a generation to get corruption in procurement out of the US army, for example. And I can't remember when it was from, but it might have been around the Vietnam War. It might have been prior to the Vietnam War. So excuse my lack of memory here, but it took them a long time. So to expect Ukraine to suddenly be able to snap their fingers and have an entire society that is magically clear and clean of corruption is completely unrealistic. So the intention is there, and as I say, the absolute need is there, because if they are going to accede to the EU, which is their kind of the major aspiration at the moment, that getting into that group of Western nations in Europe where they've got a kind of safe home, and they'll get support and hopefully bring up their, economically have benefits for them, so on and so forth. In order to get that, or in order to get the IMF funding or the World Bank funding or whatever, then they absolutely need to clear themselves up. Now, we have seen, so if you look at something called the Transparency Index, and I'll bring that up because it's always interesting when you have Russian trolls on your website, on the threads, talking about how in fact the Wikipedia page might be best in the corruption perceptions index. So it's always interesting when trolls go, well, how corrupt is Ukraine? It's the most corrupt nation in the world, and actually it's not as corrupt as Russia. So Ukraine is now 116th. It has moved up. It's gone up, I think, 6 places. That's what that indicates from the previous year. So if we look at the titles here, we've got 2021, 2022. So 2020 to 2021 to 2022. So it did dip going into 2021, and now it's gone back up. So it is in a better place than it was, a joint 116th place, up from 122nd. But if we look for Russia, well, I wonder where Russia is. Oh my goodness. Well, it's certainly, oh, here it is, 137th, and that went down 1 position. So yeah, it's very difficult. The saying is, when you're in a glass house, don't throw stones, right? Russia and pro-Kremlin voices are in a glass house, and if they're going to throw stones at Ukraine, then they need to be kind of wary about that, because they're from the point of view of corruption, they're in a much or somewhat worse place than Ukraine, and they're going in the wrong direction. So Ukraine has the aspirations to be this this transparent and uncorrupt place.
I'm back. Check.
Yep, I can hear you loud and clear, mate. And Russia are not in that position, and are going in the wrong direction. So that's at least one good thing. But anyway, from your point of view, Rick, what do you think about corruption in Ukraine? You were saying that it is there, and there are certain areas it's particularly bad, but I guess you were leaning towards it is improving.
Yes. First of all, I wanted to say that I am. I have finally fixed my connection. I guess it works fine on both sides.
You sound a lot better.
Yes, at least for now. Let's hope it will last. So I wanted to say that corruption here is, of course, big, but it's a huge exaggeration that Ukraine is the most corrupt country in the world. It is total bullshit and Russian propaganda, and they're using this narrative constantly to play against us and to divide us with our partners, with our allies. And I will say next that we, Ukrainian citizens, conscious Ukrainian citizens, we are trying to stop that. We are pushing our government pretty hard so they would not, play by the rules of corrupt people. And we have been creating different committees. We've been actually putting out petitions. For example, like the latest example, our deputies were said that one of the conditions for us to enter the European Union is to make the declarations, the taxes declarations of deputies transparent, and to make them, them show everything that they are earning and what they are declaring for us to see if they are corrupt. And they were trying their best to hide it. And they were voting for making it closed for a year. So they will be declaring, but we won't be able to see it. And we made a record petition for 86, I guess, 1,000 people. President actually must actually, we have such a thing that on his site, we're signing a petition, and he is not allowed to ignore it. He must look into it and must must answer to us, to society, what he's going to do with that. And this one was the record one. It happened a week ago, and it took just a couple of days to make it 86,000 people who were calling for president to put veto on that hiding declaration law and to make it open. And president finally listened to us. Not finally, in this case. By the way, my chat is not working. I wonder. Sorry that I paused myself there. I wonder if it's working there.
You're coming through loud and clear for me, but you're absolutely right. So we have the similar thing in the UK, whereby if there's a certain threat. Is it 100,000? I think there's a threshold that if you get 100,000 signatures on some kind of petition, then it has to be discussed in the House of Commons. So they have to discuss it,
It's
and that sounds like
25,000 here.
Yeah, right. So it's a lower threshold, but that's really good. And well, what's interesting about what you say though is and I remember when this came out, people were discussing this at the time, which is those Ukrainian politicians who are saying, "Oh yeah, no, I don't think we should do this," or like voting against it or whatever, are clearly the ones who've got something to hide, right? So
Yes.
if you're like, "Yeah, I don't want these transparency rules to be put in place," then it's like, why would you not want that? Like. Clearly you are one of these people that this is aimed at
Yes.
sorting out. So yeah,
and we need to deal with them, but the thing is, we need to do it in the way of the law. We cannot just put them in prison. This is not going to be a thing that's done in democratic countries. We need to have the evidence against them. We need to put them for the responsibility, but in the way of law. This is why it's gonna take time. It's gonna take time to fight corruption, like fully. Of course, I guess no country fought it fully, but we actually need to oversee our understanding of corruption. I am reading a pretty interesting guy here in Ukraine. His name is Viktor Andrusiv. He was once the advisor of Minister of Internal Affairs of Ukraine. And this guy is very smart. He publishes books, and his approach is very pro-American, I would say. And he is saying that, guys, we need to, for example, lobbying things. In America, they do that thing. They do it in politics. They do it in business. And here in Ukraine, it is called corruption. We need to put those terms here in Ukrainian mind of society. We need to oversee our approach to corruption. We need to stimulate the things. For example, we would do such a conditions where these deputies won't even want to be corrupt. They would be satisfied with the legal ways of earning money. There's a huge work, and it's going to take a lot of political will to do all of this. But unfortunately, war is not a good time to do it. That's we're already doing it. But
I was just going to say this, but someone actually said it in my live chat. Don't allow lobbying. So lobbying, in my opinion, is legalized corruption. So if you are a politician and you're accepting money and you're allowed to accept money, like the US is big for this. It's one of my biggest criticisms of US politics is that the lobbying takes place so much there that, like, if you're going to be paid by anyone else, like, it's a quid pro quo. They are expecting something back, right? They're not just giving you money because, oh, I really like you. When the National Rifle Association, I know I'm going to have viewers who are big fans of owning guns and whatever, but if the NRA are paying 100% of Republican politicians money, then those politicians are going to vote in a certain way on gun legislation, for example. That should be outlawed because that is effectively bribery. In the same way the politicians are paid by medical insurance companies and private hospitals and whatnot, the pharmaceutical companies, they are not going to make decisions in the best interest of the people. They're going to make decisions in the best interest of those people that are paying them. So they say, so Ukraine is going to reform. I hope to goodness that it doesn't allow lobbying to take place, because that would make me cry.
Yeah, now when you put it this way, I see that it's not good. Like as a result, we need to begin with something, and it's not the
Yeah.
only thing that he was talking about. I just cannot recall the exact. I can actually look it up if it's not going to take too much time. But maybe, yeah. First, I
So
actually wanted to mention that you guys from my community, please follow Jonathan's channel if you haven't yet. I haven't mentioned it yet, but he has a great channel. Yeah, and thank you, Jonathan, for being the supporter of Ukraine and for doing a good job of informing people.
thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. That's really kind of you to say so. And likewise to all of my followers, please check out Rick the Ukrainian. He does such good work. And you might have seen, I showed you one of his videos, or at least part of one of his videos some time back. One of his big translation. He does a lot of live streams, more of them at the moment than his kind of translation ones. But the one that is really good and worth seeing is the interview with a Russian officer who is hit by the javelin. That one, it's from a month ago. I thought
Oh yeah.
that was from further. Well, oh no, here it is back here. I was going to say it was more than a month ago, 7 months ago, right? This one, dubbed interview with a Russian officer who was hit by a javelin. That one there, like, is absolutely fascinating. It's a fascinating insight into that man's head, and therefore the kind of thinking of a lot of Russian soldiers in Ukraine. And some of it's like pretty staggering. But yeah, so you must find it really interesting to get into the heads of some of these like Russian prisoners of war, well, soldiers predominantly. What surprised you most about doing that kind of dubbing or subtitle work? What has like made you really angry, or made you really hopeful, or just really surprised?
Um, Jonathan, I'm sorry. May I first finish the topic we
Sorry,
touched about the
yeah,
corruption? No
yeah,
problem. No. It's my thing. I mean, I went to find his points, and first point is journalists. Our journalists, investigators, they're doing a great job, and they're always showing to society of the corrupt cases. No, I guess they're working better than even some institutions here in Ukraine because we have anti-corruption institutions like anti-corruption court. We have anti-corruption agency who are investigating cases, but our journalists sometimes are doing even a better job. So you see, we could be stimulating those journalists to do a better job for example, by putting some investments in their work. This could be better too, if I got him correctly. Second thing is audition.
Can I just add to that, Rick? Like,
Yeah.
that's so important. What you say is so important, right? Freedom of press is
Yes.
massive. Like, if the government have, what we see in Hungary, and to a degree, maybe a little bit in Poland, but more in Hungary and certainly in Russia, if you don't allow your press to hold people to account, to speak truth to power, then you don't
Mhm.
have any checks and balances coming from outside of your government. The press is that important. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
Yes, and about speaking about the press, we have people saying, for example, here in Ukraine, some journalists can even say that Zelensky must be put to the court and to answer for his crime. So press is free in here. I
That's
mean,
good. That's a good point.
uh, I would not agree with that guy because he is biased at some things, but he can say that, and the
Yeah.
press is free. That guy is not bad, but he is. There are some political processes going here, and he might be working for some of them. But he's. I won't say his name, but I will say that he's doing a great job by showing the front line. He's going to the front line. He's making interviews with our soldiers. He's even going with battles with them. He has one video where he went to battle with them to assault Russian positions. This was an impressive
Wow.
one. So,
Wow.
but that guy, yeah, that guy criticizes our government a lot, and I will. As for Zelensky, I won't agree with them, but I'll agree with him when he's talking some bad stuff about other politicians because some of them might be even Russian agents, and they're still there. sitting. And we, as a Ukrainian society, are really shocked how some of those pro-Russian elements are still in power, how they are spreading that propaganda when they're saying, for example, that we are under the external control, that everything is made here to put us under the influence of American corporations and all that stuff, that we are just the subject, that we're the object, that we're not having our own will. That bullshit. And it's totally Russian propaganda. That's the narrative that they've been using for the last 9 years and even beyond that. Those elements are staying there, and we're gonna fight them. They're all gonna sit to prison, but some of them are paying money to some corrupt politicians, and they are letting them be. But this is just a matter of time. I'm sure of it. We as a society are pretty strong here in Ukraine. We are always tell our politicians what to do. It just takes time, you know. We will investigate. Our journalists will investigate. We will talk about it. We will put it into the media space, just like I'm doing it on my channel too. So people will know, and everything will just be worse and worse for all those pro-Russian elements, and they will know that the retribution will come, and they will pay for their crimes. So the audition is the second way to fight the corruption. We'll end with journalism, but it needs to be external. Those should be some unbiased companies that will do the overview of work of our government, who will come from outside, not from the inside, because right now we have the internal audition. So the government.
So audition is slightly the wrong word. I think what you mean is auditing. So
auditing. Yes.
Yeah,
Thank
auditing.
you.
Yeah, it should be audition, but we have audition is when you go to get a part in a play or something. It's like
yeah.
Auditing. Yeah. Karen.
You're right. Sorry. Thank you for correcting me that, because I didn't know the correct word. Thank you, Jonathan. Auditing, yes, it must be external. Everything must be overseen from the outside. Not the government is overseeing their own doing. You know, it's bullshit. That was the third thing, and second thing, and the third thing is prevention, or stopping it before it happened, the corruption. That's the problem, because right now we have institutions who mostly punish those who already did some corrupt crimes, corruption crimes. So there are 3 good steps, and I guess we need to move to the next topic, if you don't have anything to add.
Well, and just prevention is better than cure. Is the
Yes.
That's how healthcare works, and the same with corruption. Like, rather you have education and sort these things out and put things in place so that you don't get corruption. And I think it's interesting what you're saying. Like, if you we talk about this going back to lobbying in UK politics. Some people are saying, and it could be the same for American politics, where and this might be unpopular, but there is a move to say we should pay politicians more, because if you pay them more, then they're not going to go and get a second job.
Yes.
And then if they don't have a second job, then they're not going to be working for people who they're going to be making decisions on behalf of. So you just like pay them a good wage, and then say, right, you're just working as a politician and you're just doing good stuff, and then they're not going looking for money. Do you know what I mean? So I think you were kind of going in that direction earlier, and there is a good argument for that.
Yeah.
So have you finished with that topic? I was I was just wondering what you'd learnt from some of the people that you've dubbed or subtitled, and what's amazed you, or what's made you angry, or what's made you hopeful.
Okay. I guess the worst thing is that Russian propaganda works very well. It is just making them helpless. All those Russians, all of them think that they are small people, that they cannot um, be influenced in any processes in their country, and they're actually slaves. By all the aspects, by all the not aspects. Shit. How do you call this?
All the metrics, all the way of measuring
Measure
how.
probably by the signs. Yeah, by
Yeah.
all the signs, and yeah, they are now slaves who are not answering for their own lives. And even those who are against war, even those who are against this invasion, this genocide, and they realize that, they still go, they still come to Ukraine, they still take part in these crimes. And those are, yeah, one guy, for example, from Moscow, he was a student of the Moscow, he was a journalist, like a future journalist, studying journalism, and he was taken there from, I don't know, his university shopped him. Thank you for teaching me this phrase. His university shopped him to the military. He was going in the beginning of the full-scale invasion. He was going to those protests against war, and they put him like they noted him. And earlier, they just get him there. He spent half a year here in Ukraine. He was even going back for rest. He was in Russia, and then he went back again, and then he got into captivity. And when he was asked, "Will you go again if you knew everything, how it will turn out?" he said yes.
Yeah, I saw
He
that
said
one.
yes.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable.
And that's the most terrible thing, that Russians will be coming here again and again. Russians will be killed. Russians will be taken captive. Russians will be killing Ukrainians. That's the most shitty thing and the most unfortunate thing. And our soldiers, our civilians will be dying from the hands of those people who maybe even don't want to go here, but still come here and still are killing our people or just being the cause of their death. Like, for example, all those cannon fodder, all the Russians who don't want to go but being sent to the very front line, they've been, just holding our soldiers and shooting at their side. And even if they're not shooting, even if they're not trained and not doing anything useful for Russian army, they are still standing there, and Russian artillery is covering our soldiers. So them just being there, and them just some of them are cooking, some of them are just passing boxes with ammunition, and it all counts. They're still accountable for that.
The worst examples I can think of, well, I don't know if there are definite examples of this, but there must be, when you've had forced mobilization of people in the Donbass, maybe in Crimea, like people who might otherwise be pro-Ukrainian being forced to go and fight for the Russian forces. And you're
Yeah.
thinking that I'm sure there must be a reality where someone's ended up killing a Ukrainian, like,
Yeah.
scare quotes, enemy, even though it's not an enemy, it's his brother in arms, in a sense. And you're just like, oh, that's so wrong. But yeah, absolutely horrible.
Yeah, it's the worst thing that they've actually took one Ukrainians and sent them to kill other Ukrainians. That's the
Terrible.
saddest method of the worst method of Soviet Union and now of Russia.
Yeah. So look, Rick, there's a sport called rugby, right? I'm a massive rugby fan. It's a Rugby World Cup at the moment, and England are playing. Literally, they're just started. So I'm gonna have to shoot off in a minute because otherwise I won't be able to live with myself. But mate, I just wanted something you were talking about earlier, and it's really great. The sound is much better. So if you're up for doing this again with that kind of this kind of sound setup, I think there's so much we can talk about, right? But something you were just mentioning there, which I think is so bloody important to understanding the Russian psyche, right? And that is, you talked about it, powerlessness, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said about Russian political powerlessness. So when you have lived, if you've gone from having a Tsar, which is some kind of like monarchy, which is unelected, so there's understandably a political revolution, and then you moved into kind of communism that ended up being like just as bad in terms of political representation, and then living in that political system for so long, right? For I don't know I can't do the math, 63 years or whatever it is, 64 years, and then you get the Russians playing around with democracy in 1991 onwards, but they failed at that, and then they moved into an oligarchy and a kleptocracy where there's all this corruption, all the money is concentrated in the people at the top, and then Putin changes the rules to basically make himself a dictator. So you now have this situation where Russian people have never really had the ability to have political representation and have power. Like the Russian people have been powerless for like 100 years, and you've got this situation where you're trying to understand why Russians are kind of willing to go to the front line but they have no way of being able to show the fact that they don't want to do that, because as soon as they protest about anything, they're put in prison. I mean, you don't even have like legalized striking there. There's stats for strikes, for like industrial strikes, are like 5 a year. But basically, you just put in prison if you really want to do anything like that. If you want to be anti-Putin, you put in prison, and so you've just got powerlessness. So anyway, that's a lot of me talking. What do you have any thoughts on Russian powerlessness?
Yes, that's actually the thing about Russians. This powerlessness is causing problems to all of us. Even those Russians who left Russia, who are not supporting Putin, who are now in Europe or in US, they still don't change anything. They are still powerless. They are still those. I want to use this word. They are still those pathetic Russians who cannot influence anything. That's the problem, and they are now getting anti-Ukrainian because we realized here in Ukraine that the only way for us to be safe is to get Russia disintegrated, to get it fallen apart, because right now it is still an empire. There are 89 different states in it, and this imperialism is being fed with this structure. It must be fallen apart for us to be safe, because when Russia talks about its great culture, its great greatness, their greatness is always goes together with the invasion, with the spreading their influence, and it will never stop, because even if some democratic government will come to power, it's still gonna be, we're sure that it's still gonna be the same, because that's Russian. That's how they've been living for centuries, man. It's not that simple. It's deeper in their minds than just 30 years of propaganda. There are many.
It's really interesting though, because Ukraine if you're looking from 1991 onwards, Russia and Ukraine went in completely different directions. Where Ukraine has done the democratic experiment, right, and has somewhat succeeded. You're not there yet. There's still problems. If we go back to that transparency index we were looking at, you're seen as a hybrid democracy, which means you're not quite there yet, but you're on the way to being a fully fledged democracy without kind of corruption and but what happened, and it's really interesting reading this in what's his name, Plochy, who wrote The Gates of Europe, about Ukraine, is one of your historians. Is it Serhiy Plochy or anyway? But he talks about this, about how, and Timothy Snyder talks about how Ukraine succeeded, and then the Russians get to look at Ukraine succeeding from inside their own border, and Putin is scared that the Russians are looking at them thinking, well, the grass is greener. How come Ukraine is doing all right? How come they've got good jobs? How come they've got a decent median income at the moment, or whatever statistics they can look at? And so that's part of the reason why Putin's done what he's done, because actually he's kind of like, not quite that he's jealous of Ukraine, but he doesn't want his population being jealous of Ukraine.
Yeah, you're right. I just realized that we haven't walked the separate ways since 1991. We were under occupation during the Soviet era. And we were never like Russians. That's the thing. We were never Russians. We were never like Russians. And we were fighting them since, I guess, 1447 or something, when they first started invading us. And they were constantly not only invading us, but conquering us sometimes in different ways. But Cossacks, for example, in 1647, if I'm not mistaken, 48, Bogdan Khmelnytsky created the Ukrainian, it was not the Republic, I'm not sure, but it was actually a democratic government there. The Senate of Cossacks, they were, deciding what to do together, and there was no king. And actually, the hetman, our kind of head of state, he was chosen by Cossacks. He was not a king. He didn't have, I guess, I forgot the thing with kings when your kids are getting the power after you how is it called?
Inheritance.
Inheritance, yes, that's the word. He didn't have an inheritance, but that was actually, they failed against Moscow. Moscow tricked them with those agreements, as maybe you know that, and they lost sovereignty back then. Moscovia was there were some, I guess, in 19th century we had Ivan Mazepa, who was actually restoring our sovereignty, and we had many other hetmans who did that. We were always trying to get it back, to get our sovereignty back. It went for centuries. It was happening for centuries, and Russians stayed the same. They stayed greedy for other people's lands. They stayed greedy for Ukraine, because Ukraine was always something that was rebelling against their, constant invasions and constant occupation. We never wanted that. And people in Ukraine, actually during the Soviet era, I heard the story not so long ago from a guy who said that his father was actually carrying Ukrainian flag at 1st of May somewhere in 70s or 80s there in Soviet Union. He was carrying the blue and yellow flag, and he asked him, "What is it?" He said, "This is the Ukrainian flag," and his he said that, but it's the Ukrainian flag is red with that Soviet flag, and he
Yeah.
said no, that's the occupation flag, son. So that's how it always was, and Russia it's not just Putin who's jealous. Russians are jealous, and the world still needs to see the real Russians. This is why this is the one of the reasons I'm dubbing those interviews, because when you watch many of them, like when I watched 100, I realized these things that I'm talking to you about right now. You probably hear it as some, I don't know, it could sound crazy that we are talking about Russians and thinking about them this way, but our history says this, and those prisoners of war are proving this. They are actually their mindset, their attitude, towards Ukraine. They think that Ukraine is part of their country, and when they're saying that we live together in one country in Soviet Union, and they have nostalgia for those years, and it's just it shows a lot.
Yeah, it's really, and that goes to talk about, like you were talking about before, brainwashing and information warfare. I mean, we're living in an era where truth and fact are battling it out against, fake news and lies and disinformation. And this is, I mean, I'm a philosopher by, my normal life, and and in philosophy, the study of truth and knowledge is called epistemology, right? Epistemology is a study of truth and knowledge. And there's this idea that previously we've had national security, where you're talking about like fighting between nations. You've got cyber security, fighting online. And now we've got epistemic security. So epistemic security is like fighting over what is true and what is not. And there's this warfare, we might call it fifth generation warfare, this hybrid warfare that's going on that the Russians are really good at, which is disinforming their own population, disinforming the foreign population, say, in the US or in the UK or in Serbia or Slovakia.
Yeah.
And they're so good at that, as you talked about. And that's my big worry going forward, is how well equipped are we all in countries all around the world? How well equipped are we to deal with the attack on our epistemic security?
Same. I'm worried too, and I wish that world was stronger, and I really hope that world will become stronger against this threat, because this threat, I mean, Russians, their propaganda, their hybrid war has been pretty efficient, I must say. They were fooling the world since 2000, I'd say 8, when they invaded Georgia, and then in 2014, and for these 9 years, no, sorry, not 9, but 8, many countries around the world were sure that it's not that simple here in Ukraine, that there was a civil war of some kind, that it wasn't the occupation of Russians, and it was not. And everything went pretty obvious in 2022, and world have seen. But now world starts to relax. I think we, how it was on February 24th, 2022, and you see how it is now. For some people, it became not so obvious that what Russia is doing here, right? And there are some theories appearing that well, I'm talking about some bullshit. And for example, American media, that this war is a fake, that everything, that bullshit. But there are some lighter cases where people start to doubt, and this must not be happening. We must fight that doubt. We must tell the truth. We must stay strong in this battle. We must, see that Russia is initially started all of this, and it is working against all the free world. you know.
Yeah, it's easy to get on that spiral downwards. You start, oh, you read that and you go, oh, and then the algorithms on YouTube and on Google and
Hmm.
whatever then say, oh, you like this stuff? How about this? And it's like, oh, you
Yeah.
like this stuff? Now how about this? And then before you know it, you've spiraled all the way down here, and you're believing all the conspiracy theories about, that are spouted by Russia, and it's a real challenge.
Yeah.
Honestly, it is one of the things that worries me. And the internet has a lot to answer for. So I don't think this was nearly as big a problem before the internet. So I love the internet. It's allowing us to do all of this, right? All the amazing things that the
Yeah.
internet provides for all of us. But at the same time, it's a double-edged sword. So it gives with one hand and takes with the other. And we've got to be so careful about how the internet operates, about how the algorithms operate. You go and watch on Netflix a documentary, what's it called? Social Dilemma, was it? I think that, or the one about basically Twitter and Facebook and all these
Hmm.
social media platforms where the algorithm is just basically manipulating you, and it's just absolutely scary. And so we just need to be really aware. It's about education, but it's also about holding media companies and internet companies to account when they end up allowing us to be manipulated.
Yeah, you're totally right, Jonathan. And yes, how
Yeah.
much time you still left?
So
Have left?
let's well, if we wrap it up now, because it's 3-0 to England. I mean, we're not going to lose this match. I'm pretty confident we're going to win it, but so I've got it on my other screen there. But yeah, I just want to say, look, thanks so much for this opportunity, Rick. It's great to talk to you. I would love to talk to you again, especially now we've
Yes.
got a more solid internet connection. Is that something you're up for?
Yes, definitely. I'm sorry that it was a bad connection today. I need to sort it out. I've told you that I need just to get it wired so there will be no problems and I would not need to restart the router. I'm gonna do it until our next stream, definitely. And we will be getting a solid stream with a great connection. Yes, I
I mean,
promise
this
you.
is
So
great. Since you sorted out just towards the end, like, this has been perfect. There's been no problem at all.
yeah, but I guess we had a lot of difficulties because of that in terms of chat and stuff. Yeah, I wanted to thank you for doing this co-stream. I wanted to say that we're going to be continuing the stream with my community here on my channel for another hour, I guess. And yes, this was an amazing conversation. Thank you very much, Jonathan. It's nice to meet you. Nice to. I actually didn't ask you about you and your life, uh, and I want to do it on the next stream. So let's plan one for, let's say, in 2 or 3 weeks, something like that.
Yeah, I'm just on my screen. By the way, I've got all the details for, and hopefully in the description below, for helping out. Please help out Rick the Ukrainians charities. I really like to platform really decent efforts to help out the Ukrainian armed forces and their efforts there. So that's really important. And just on the like asking me about myself, when me and my mates go down a pub, I've got one of my best mates, right? We talk philosophy. We started this pub philosophy group. The reason I'm called ATP Geopolitics is a tippling philosopher. Tippling means sort of drinking. So we'd go down once a month to the pub, and we'd pick a subject and we'd talk about that subject all night, right? And then that's how we started the tippling philosophers. So anyway, like, whenever I see him now, he lives around the corner. We go down a pub, and as soon as we see each other, we're like straight into philosophy, straight into politics, and we'll be like 2 hours going, and then like
Cool.
then when it's like time at the bar, we'd be like, oh, Rob, mate, oh, how's your family? Are you all right? Is everything okay with you? And like, we spend like, we don't care about it. We're just like these big ideas, and then it's like, oh yeah, like how's your wife? Oh yeah, nice. Anyway, so next time I'll introduce myself, mate.
Yeah, let's have more talks. It was an awesome stream. Thank you very much,
Cool.
Jonathan. And yes, and I'll see you soon. And yeah, thank you. And thank you, Jonathan's viewers, for being here with us.
Thank you so much, and I'll keep on talking to them for a little bit, but and I just implore them all to hop over to you, subscribe to your channel, and help out your fundraising. But thanks, man. You take it easy.
Thank you very much, man. Bye.
Right, thank you so much. Sorry about all the issues at the beginning, guys. It was we got there in the end, and hopefully, next time we'll have all those issues ironed out. I have to say, that was his internet issue basically that was causing most of those problems. But anyway, thanks you guys. Thanks for all of you who have super stickered, super chatted. Oh my goodness, I've missed out some of these. Right, I need to be much more attentive. Right, Mark, goodness, another great live stream from Mark and Elena. So Mark is Canadian and Elena, I believe, is his Ukrainian. Well, it's Mark. Mark, you must be, actually, you've got a Ukrainian surname, so are you both Ukrainian living in Canada? Anyway, thank you so much for your kindness. You're such a great supporter of the stream. So a couple of Yukis from Canada, and Canada has a really interesting diaspora community. It's got some really strong links to Ukraine, and in fact they are within the government. There are people who have connections to Ukraine, so it's a really interesting country as far as supporting Ukraine politically and sort of culturally, if you like. I'd love to do a stream one day, Mark. I don't know if you're up for this, whether you're happy to speak in public, but I'd love to get people who have got connections to Ukraine. So like yourself, we've got Matt Bishop living in Australia with a Ukrainian wife, and your wives, obviously, anyone with a connection. Maybe have a round table with a bunch of you on the video, on the live stream at once, just talking about your experiences and about how the experiences of a Ukrainian in Canada, and what you might be able to bring to the conversation. I'd love that. If you're up for that, let me know. Thank you, Greybeard. Gary Rollinson. I only put Gary together with being Greybeard on like Discord yesterday, so thank you, Greybeard. I really appreciate your support. You're a great supporter of the channel. Legendary. And thanks for those who have both gifted the memberships or have taken out memberships. So Robert Pitt, welcome to the team. Adam Williams, welcome as well. RU system failing for the third time in 105 years. Falling for the third time in 105 years. Wouldn't it be interesting, A, whether it will fall, the Russian political system, and B, what will happen when it falls? I'm quite interested to know, what's going to go on going forward. Anyway, thank you so much, guys, for supporting. Please like, subscribe, and share. Sorry about the technical issues. It'll be better next time in that regard. Take care, and I'll speak to you all tomorrow. Toodle pips.